everyone, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Brittany of BrittanyJJones.com. In this video, I am going to be demonstrating how to sew a sleeve cuff. Let's get started. To sew a sleeve cuff, I'm going to be using the pattern pieces from Simplicity 9707. The pattern pieces are pattern piece number 6 to sleeve and the cuff, which is pattern piece number 7. Here is my sleeve and cuff pattern piece here. I have fused my cuff with interfacing and I've also transferred my markings. I'm going to put the sleeve to the side so we can begin working on the cuff. The first thing that we're going to do is press under our seam allowance on the unnotched edge of the cuff, and then we can trim it to 1/4 inch. So on your unnotched edge of your cuff, you want to press under 5/8 inch and then trim it down to 1/4 inch. Let's go ahead and give it a press now. Now that we have pressed under our seam allowance, let's go ahead and trim. I am just eyeballing, trimming it down to 1/4 inch, but you absolutely can get your ruler and just make sure that you are trimming it down to 1/4 inch. All right, now that we have it trimmed, let's go ahead and grab our sleeve. So this is my sleeve here, and I already have my sleeve prepped according to the instructions in that pattern. So now with right sides together, we are going to pin the cuff to the sleeve. We're going to match up our notches, our small dots, and then we will pin everything in place and stitch. So first I'm going to find my notch, which is right here. I'm going to match that up to the notch on my cuff and pin there. And I'm going to continue pinning. Okay, now that you have your cuff pinned onto your sleeve, you have matched up your small dots, you've matched up your notch. Now we can go ahead and stitch in a 5/8 inch seam allowance, trim our seam, and then you want to press your seam coming up toward the cuff. So let's go ahead and stitch it in place, trim the seam, and give it a press. Now that it's sewn, let's go ahead and trim. Now that it's trimmed, let's go ahead and press. I'm going to press my seam so that it is coming up toward the cuff. All right, I have given my cuff a press. I have my seam allowance coming up toward the cuff. And so now we're going to fold the cuff in half along the fold line. I place a little notch here where my fold line is. I'm just going to fold in half right along that, and I'm going to place a pin right here along the ends. Make sure you have raw edges together like so, and pin in place. And again, we're just folding right along the fold line that is on our cuff. I'm going to do the same thing to this side. Now that we have it folded and pinned, let's go ahead and we can now stitch our openings closed right here along our cuff. So let's go ahead and stitch the ends, and then we can trim. Let's go ahead and trim our seam now that it is sewn. And now we can turn the cuff right side out and give it a press. If you have a point turner, you can poke out your corners. Now we're going to pin this pressed edge of the cuff right over our seam, and we're going to place the pins on the outside of the fabric. So again, this pressed edge here, we're going to place it right over our seam here, and then we are going to place our pins along the outside. I am pinning and I am making sure that I catch the pressed edge along the inside of the cuff. So I'm going to continue pinning. All right, now that we have it pinned, we're going to go to our sewing machine and we're going to edge stitch really close to the edge of the cuff. We're going to be stitching right here, and as we get to the pins, you want to remove your pins as you sew, but again, we're going to be doing an edge stitch right here to make sure that we stitch and secure the underside of the cuff. So let's go to the sewing machine and we can go ahead and start stitching in place now. Once you have done your edge stitch along your cuff, this is what mine look like along the outside, and this is what it looks like here on the inside. Now that you have this done, you can go ahead and give it a really good press, and then you want to apply your buttonholes as well as your buttons at the markings here on your cuff. Let's first go ahead and give it a press. All right, I've given my cuff a press. I've transferred my buttonhole markings, so now we can go ahead and apply our buttonholes. Let's go ahead and do the buttonholes now. Okay, I have sewn on my buttonholes. I do recommend using some fray check. That will help to reduce some of the fraying once you cut open your buttonhole. Once you have your buttonhole sewn on, you can go ahead and sew your buttons either by hand or by machine. You are all done with your cuff and you can move on to the next steps in your project. Well, that is all for the demo, and I really do hope that you all enjoyed it. If you would like to see more how-to sewing videos, you can check out the playlist here on YouTube up under our how-to section, or you can head on over to simplicity.com and watch them there. Until next time, blessings everyone. Bye.